I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. It's been a very difficult and hard week here with our family, and I'll just leave it at that. For those of you that follow me on Facebook, you are aware of what went down, and it's been a sad time to lose a member of your family. But anyhow, we move forward and we move on, and we will get through these trying times as we always do. So I want to start tonight's show off sharing with you a little bit of information about what recently took place up at the White House that is confusing to many patriots. Should be confusing to everyone, regardless of your political party, but I realize that's not going to be the case because the left will always find a way to cover for their president. So let's start with the event, the chain of events that took place. All right. Starting last week, Dr. Doom, aka Dr. Fauci, the health administrator, advisor, guru to the president, said that COVID is back on the rise and mass updates should happen again. And that he does want people to start wearing masks. It will be up to the president, actually himself, to make that determination. But whatever Dr. Fauci says, Dr. Fauci is going to get. So you can bet we're going to go in the lockdowns and everything we already went through before, having to wear a mask out in public, all that kind of stuff, social distancing. And look, I'm not saying that COVID isn't real because I had it 3 times, and the second time it almost killed me. And I've got many doctors in our family that treat people with it. And some people, it acts no different than a common cold. And other people, it takes their life. Okay? Not so much this virus itself, but the fact that they have other underlying medical conditions. And this is just the final straw that makes all that come together. Okay? So anyhow, back to this. So Dr. Doom comes out and like almost every day last week doing an interview with somebody, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, all the left-wing propaganda networks talking about how we've got to go back to wearing masks again. So obviously Joe Biden's aware of this. The entire administration is aware of this because he's the person that advises on it, right? Then things start to get weird. After he puts out, we need to return to this, lo and behold, if Joe Biden doesn't come down with COVID, just a coincidence that he's going to start pushing the mask mandates again. And Joe has COVID. Okay. Now, whether you want to believe that that's true or not, it's up to you. I tend to believe that it's actual BS. This is just a way to start the process of, once again, locking us all down. And the reason I say that is because of the next chain of events that took place. And that is Joe Biden attending a ceremony for the Medal of Honor that the president gives to a veteran that's deserving of it. And they hold a ceremony. Typically, it's at the White House. And they have guests. And in this case, they had plenty. It was a packed room with a bunch of people. The veteran was a Vietnam veteran, same age as Joe, probably in his 80s, or at least late 70s. Joe comes out and does his whole thing and presents the Medal of Honor and puts it around the guy's neck and shaking hands with everybody and all that kind of good stuff. But there's a problem here. What do you think the problem was? Well, for those of you who didn't see this, let me help you. Joe wasn't wearing a mask. Now, if his guru is saying, we got to go back to doing this, and Joe's all for that, and now his wife has it, so he's been exposed to it, whether he has it or not, or is showing symptoms or not yet. And then he goes to an indoor setting in a room in the White House, packed with all these people, many of them elderly people, to include himself, without wearing a mask. And therefore, if he does have COVID, from getting it from his wife, he just spread it to everybody in the damn room. So today, many right-wing media outlet people brought this up to Karine Jean-Pierre, whatever her frickin' name is, the White House press secretary. And then she's trying to cover for Biden, saying, oh, well, he put his mask on before, and he only took it off to talk. Okay, well, he took it off to talk in front of these elderly people, to include the vet. He's putting the Medal of Honor around his neck without wearing a mask and shaking their hands, and then walks right through the middle of the crowd. And that's the final thing of this crazy story, is the ceremony wasn't over. Joe Biden has attended these ceremonies for the Medal of Honor many times. He's already done it himself, where he's given out, I think, 2 Medal of Honors to veterans. As Vice President of the United States, for 8 years, he attended these ceremonies. When Obama was the president, he was vice president. He knows how it works from start to finish. And the last thing that happens after the president puts the Medal of Honor, or the Medal of Honor around the vet's neck, is they go into the final stage, which is the prayer. And Joe Biden exits stage left and doesn't stay for the prayer. Walks right through the middle of this crowd without wearing a mask. Now, I know, whether or not masks work or don't masks work, I'm done with all that. What I'm saying is, if this guy is going to come out here real soon and start locking us all back down again, or trying to at least, he just screwed the pooch by what he did at this Medal of Honor ceremony. That was absolutely stunning for those of us that pay any attention to what this guy's doing. Talk about hypocrisy. Do as I say, not as I do. And that's what we witnessed from this guy. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing watching that go down. So anyhow, those of you that saw it, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that didn't, now you know. You can watch it. You can see the whole ceremony. It's on YouTube. Watch it for yourself. Watch how close he is to all these people right there in the room, after just being told that his wife tested positive for COVID. And his guru for this, Dr. Fauci, is telling everybody we need to go back to mask. Certain things you couldn't make up if you tried. You know what I mean? So these next three stories, I'm going to concentrate on just something tonight that I feel that everybody in America needs to know. All right. So tonight's show is going to be a little shorter because I'm tired. It's been a long week. But these next few things, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, conservative, liberal, I don't care. You need to know this because this administration is doing this to you. And it doesn't matter your political affiliation. We're all going to suffer because of the stupidity coming out of this current White House. Now, let me first say, before I go into this, I am for being a good steward of planet Earth. I'm all for that. It's our home. It's all we have. But we must use common sense or else we face a catastrophe to the American people's pockets and the economy as a whole. So whether you believe in green energy or you don't believe in green energy, you can't put the horse in front of the cart in front of the horse. All right. You have to have things in place to replace something that you don't like. And this administration, it's fossil fuels. They're like oil and gas. Let's face it. They want electric everything. And that would all be fine and dandy if there was a way to make that happen before you start putting restrictions on stopping the fossil fuel industry and shutting down the oil industry. You can't do one without having something else to back it up with first. I mean, that's just common sense. It shouldn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. You should get this. And from what I'm going to share with you here shortly, there are Democrats that are getting it and going, time out, dude. I want to get reelected in my district, and you're screwing my district. Okay? So let's get into what those things are that the Biden administration is now going to just bend you over a barrel and make you pay out your ass for gasoline, gas for your home, for heating, oil. I've been warning you that you ain't seen nothing yet of what's happening with the gas prices. And tonight is proof positive what we're about to face coming up really, really soon. So we'll start with this. The Biden administration quietly moved to ban the transport of liquefied natural gas, LNG, via rail on Friday. That's right. Most of the natural gas that travels across America from the plants to the areas where it's needed, especially in the north, especially in places where they get blizzards and a lot of heavy snow, all right, it all travels by train. Well, I guess because of a lot of derailments that have happened in these environmental groups, the Biden administration decided, okay, we're not going to transport it by train anymore. Which means, how else are you going to get it there? By 18-wheeler, right? Okay, so let's move on. The Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, a sub-agency of the Department of Transportation, moved to undo a Trump-era rule that allowed the transport of liquefied natural gas via train and a regulatory filing published in the Federal Registry last Friday. Liquefied natural gas transport on rail tanks will not be permitted until the Department of Transportation, and that's run by Mr. Butlick, proposes a rule of liquid natural gas rail transport or until June 30th of 2025, according to the Federal Registry entry for the decision to remove the Trump-era rule. Environmentalists held this. They think it's the greatest victory ever. And they're very happy with the Biden administration and Department of Transportation for doing this, citing the perceived risk that liquid natural gas on railroads poses to communities and habitats in light of the past of railways, according to the Sierra Club and Food and Water Watch group. And yes, there's been train derailments all over the freaking country. They're happening damn near daily now. Instead of focusing on fixing and repairing the rail system, we're just going to change things up a little bit so that you, the American public, pays for it in a big way. Today, the Biden administration has fired another salvo in its war on Americans' energy by essentially prohibiting the movement of liquid natural gas by rail. By removing this option, the radical environmentalists in the Biden administration have delivered a further setback to America's prosperity and national security. Liquid natural gas by rail would give Americans, particularly those who have limited energy choices because of geography, an affordable environmental response option to meet their energy needs. The removal of the Trump-era rule is intended to avoid potential risks to public health and safety or environmental issues, to include direct and indirect greenhouse gas emissions. According to the Federal Registry entry, there have been no transportation of liquid natural gas by tank cars since the previous administration finalized the 2020 rule that allowed it. The PHMSA is now aware of any orders to build the required rail cars to transport it further. Spokesman for the Daily Caller told the News Foundation. The suspension will ensure no rail car transports liquid natural gas before updated research on safety is completed or a revised rulemaking is completed by June 30th of 2025, whichever is earliest. This suspension will minimize potential risk to public health, safety, and the environment. So now it's got to go by 18-wheeler, right? Which brings us to the next story. Truckers are warning the Biden administration that the EPA regulations would be catastrophe for the American food supply. Truckers argue EPA regulators will promote electric vehicles at the expense of American consumers. President Joe Biden's administration finalizing plans for a program it argues will further reduce air pollution for heavy-duty engines and vehicles across the United States. But truckers argue the proposed standards will crush the supply chain and put the American food supply at risk. The new emission standards put forth by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, are significantly more stringent, cover a wider range of heavy-duty engine operating conditions compared to previous standards that are aimed at reducing emissions of nitrogen oxides and other pollutants. The rule officially went into effect March 27th of this year, but we will be implementing it for new trucks sold after 2027. Despite the positive spin by the current administration, truckers say the agency standards will promote green energy at the expense of the economy and the country's food supply. More than 95% of the trucking companies that make up the industry are small businesses operated about 10 or fewer trucks. JKC Trucking Vice President and owner Mike Kurtz told Fox News Digital. He believes that by complying with the EPA's clean energy mandates, many small trucking companies will be pushed out of business, tightening trucking capacities nationwide and causing severe price inflation worse than what we have right now, which will be passed down to who? Consumers. JKC Trucking Incorporation is Chicago's largest specialty contract carrier for climate-controlled and dry freight loads, specializing in less than truckload shipments for customers with one box, one pallet, or half a truck to ship from the Midwest to California, Florida, and major cities west of the Mississippi River. The EPA estimates the technology required to meet the new rule standards will cost between $2,568 to $8,304 per truck. But the American Truck Dealers Association estimates it more close to $40,000 per truck. In total, the association of the new regulations for the country's truckers could reach $55 billion over the lifetime of the program. A new clean diesel long-haul tractor typically costs in the range of $180,000 to $200,000. A comparable battery electric tractor costs upwards of $480,000. That's a $300,000 upcharge, which is cost prohibitive from the overwhelming majority of trucking companies. This mandate is based on brand new technology, number one, and they're supporting green energy above the economy. They added, I support green energy, but it's extremely frustrating because it's this new mandate that they are forcing. Truckers are nonstop over-regulated. Todd Spencer, president and the owner-operator of Independent Drivers Association, told Fox News Digital that the EPA's regulations are part of their regulatory blitz on small business truckers. The newest announcement is a blatant attempt to force consumers into purchasing electric vehicles while a national charging infrastructure network remains absent for heavy-duty commercial trucks as well as cars. Professional drivers are skeptical of electric vehicle costs, mileage, range, battery weight and safety, charging time and availability. It's baffling that the EPA is pushing forward with more impractical emissions timeline without first addressing these overwhelming concerns with electrical commercial motor vehicles, it added. So food goes by truck, wood goes by truck, goods for all your stores, whether it's Home Depot or Walmart or mom and pop stores, all go by truck. Everything goes by truck or rail. Gas, oil goes by truck. And now the gas that was allowed on rails are now taken away and put back on trucks. The pursuit for this radical environment agenda is conjunction with an anticipated speed limiter mandate will regulate the safety and most experienced truckers off the road. Republican U.S. Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska proposed a resolution that would have blocked the EPA mandate. It passed the Senate in April and the House in May, but Biden used his veto power to kill the resolution shortly thereafter. In July, a bipartisan group in Congress sent a letter to the EPA expressing similar concerns about the regulations. The EPA's always pushing more and more regulations on us, and it's harder to do our job. We're kind of sick of it, the administration and the EPA jamming it down truckers' throats. These regulations are not practical. Number one, cost. Number two, infrastructure. We're not ready for the infrastructure. Three, the testing and data. They're just doing the testing on these trucks right now. I really haven't even driven an electric truck or seen one in person, according to the director of the Truckers Association. He said the driving range of electric trucks is nowhere close to gas and diesel-powered vehicles, and it's simply not practical. The charge of an electric truck is about 10 hours, and the distance could be about 150 miles to 300 miles. To give you an idea right now, one of our diesel trucks, when it fills up to 300 gallons, it has a capacity of up to 1,600 to 1,800 miles. So these 300 miles, let's say you and I jump in a truck tomorrow, we have to go to Los Angeles from Chicago. We're barely out of the state of Illinois, let alone able to get food to the West Coast or come back, he added. It's just going to take the transit time and increase it. With new technology, the distance should be as much as we have now, if not even further. In addition, he explained that the lithium battery weighs about 8,000 pounds, which means there will be 8,000 pounds less in a payload for each electric truck to make the room for the 4-ton battery. We will have to take less payload because of these new batteries that weigh about 8,000 pounds. So that's about 300 gallons of diesel fuel right there, about 2,100 pounds of fuel. And every gallon we burn, we're lighter around 7 pounds. But with these new batteries, fully charged or not, they still weigh 8,000 pounds. In June, 20 states sued the EPA for granting California a waiver to issue its own set of truck emission standards that go further than the federal regulations, effectively banning the sale of gas or diesel trucks, according to the Iowa Attorney General, Bernard Bird. Under California's truck ban, about 55% of delivery vans and small trucks, 75% of buses and larger trucks, and 40% of tractor trailers must be fully electric by 2035. By 2045, gas and diesel trucks will be banned from being sold in the state of California. The Attorney General from across the country argued the California rule will impact the entire country and the entire trucking industry. In lockstep with California, 8 other states are going to do the same thing. Colorado, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington have adopted the state's rule, and Connecticut, Maine, and North Carolina plan to follow. The last 2 summers in California have been the hottest summers on record. It was really funny because last summer, the regulators came out about California's electrifying trucks, and the next day, the news were going to say, and they said to everybody, do not plug in your electric cars. The grid is overwhelmed. Mentioning that the day before, California passed legislation to electrify all of these trucks. So think about this. You got to go all electric. It's going to happen. That's what California said. Here's the mandates. Boom, 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 boom. Not being allowed the diesel trucks, no longer gasoline trucks. Everything's got to be plug-in electric. And the next day, all of you that have electric vehicles, don't plug them in because the power grid's overpowered. We're having to do rolling blackouts across the state. So how the hell are you going to get anything accomplished? How are you going to move anything? Much less California. We're talking about America. There's no places set up for that. Hell, if you own an electric vehicle and you like to travel out of state or across country, you're fully aware by now that you screwed the pooch when you bought that electric vehicle. Because for you to go 1,000 miles, chalk it up to days because of the time it's going to take you to figure out where to go to find the charging stations, and then the time to sit there to wait in line for your time. And then finally your time comes and you got to sit there for 30 minutes or an hour, or in an 18-wheeler's case, 10 hours to charge the damn thing. You see where I'm going with this? You know, the other thing is that these batteries for the electric vehicles are harmed drastically by extreme cold and extreme heat. How will it work in high elevations? How's it going to work in the Las Vegas deserts when it's 130 degrees? They criticize the administration for moving full steam ahead with regulations that didn't take into account the truckers, the supply chain, or the American people. The concern is that if this technology fails, the entire supply chain will be dead in the water and nothing will move across this country. Is that what you want, liberals? I mean, are you so hard pressed for green everything that you're willing to see America basically be like North Korea, for crying out loud, where everybody's starving to death and can't get oil and gas? Failure to not merely inconvenient, it's catastrophe what's about to happen. This is not an option, especially for the food supply chain in America. Time is money in the trucking industry, and this is a trickle down to the end user, the American people. While the supply chain does have a safety stock, the rule has always been that the less stock, the more profit is made. So the food supply stock is super thin. Not to mention, it can't sit and wait to travel across the country 8-9 days via 18-wheeler now that could have been done in 24 hours because, it's got to stop and charge. All the food will be bad. It's going to go bad. God forbid if you got a refrigerated truck and now it shuts down because you ain't got the charging yet. You're waiting in line to get charging. I mean, if you drive an 18-wheeler or you've ever driven an 18-wheeler, or you have a family member or know somebody drives an 18-wheeler, ask them about this. How they're going to transport across country what we need. They're not. If all trucking stops in America, stores will start running out of food within 48 to 72 hours. So there should be a backup perimeters in place to keep truckers up and running. The government needs to learn from the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic because truckers are the backbone of the American supply chain. And you're about to break their backbone. Thanks, Joe. So we don't get into the same situation. We have to learn from our mistakes, learn from COVID. I say we need to sit down with the lawmakers. Lawmakers need to sit down with us so we can show them our problems, so we can come up with solutions together to keep the wheels rolling and feeding the American people. I'm not done. Oh, no. But I'm close. And here's what should be covered by every news media outlet on planet Earth outside of America to show the other countries that don't know yet how stupid we are, or at least the far left and the left-leaning Democrats. President Biden is being heavily criticized by both Republicans and now Democrat members of Congress for his administration's actions yesterday, significantly curbing fossil fuel drilling in an oil-rich region of Alaska. As part of the actions, the Department of the Interior proposed regulations to ensure maximum protection for 13 million acres of land across the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska. Biden further ordered an additional 2.8 million of acres to be withdrawn from oil and gas leasing in the Beaufort Sea off the northern coast of Alaska. Additionally, Interior Secretary Deb Haaland authorized the cancellation of 7 leases that are already issued to the Alaska Industrial Development and Export Authority. These leases were purchased back in January of 2021 and span 365,775 acres across northern wilderness areas of the Arctic natural wildlife refuge. Now, let me stop for 1 second. I'm all for protecting our animals. You're not going to find a better advocate for animals than Douglas Ducote. But I know for a fact, from my father working in the oil and gas business for years, especially up in Prudhoe Bay and in Alaska, and friends and family that have worked up there as well, they go out of their way to make sure that what they're doing is not harming the environment or the animals. They even have in certain places what they call bear patrol police, where if you're going to get into your truck to go on a job site, or you're at the job site, coming out of the office, getting in your truck, and a bear's there, they will come out and shoo the bear away or tranquilize it and move it to another location so that you don't have any issues there. They go out of their way to protect animals and resources, water, land. Everything is done with safety involved and doing everything in their power not to injure the environment and animals. With climate change warning the Arctic more than twice as fast as the rest of the planet, we must do everything within our control to meet the highest standards of care to protect these fragile ecosystems, Haaland said. Biden added in a social media post that he was taking action to meet the moment of future generations. Yet he failed to mention that this current generation, us, will pay the price at the pump as well as the overall economy for his actions. The president was blasted for the move, which opponents said would harm U.S. energy security, inadvertently reward foreign energy producers, and contrary a congressional intent of past legislation by killing what they've already approved. I can't explain to the American people why we would be willingly become more dependent on foreign oil imports, eliminating good-paying American jobs, and drive up the cost of our electric bills and our gas prices across the country, said Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia. This is yet another example of this administration caving to the radical left with no regard for clear direction from Congress or America's energy security. Let's be clear. This is another attempt to use executive action to circumvent the law to accomplish what this administration does not have the votes to achieve in Congress, he added. Canceling valid leases, removing acreage from future sales, and attempting to reduce production in Alaska while taking steps to allow Iran and Venezuela to produce more oil with fewer environmental regulations, because they don't give a fuck about our environmental regulations over there, makes no sense and is frankly embarrassing. Under this administration's action, curbing development in the NPR, future oil and gas leasing and industrial development would be strictly limiting special areas known for their rich wildlife populations. Yet, that's the entire state of Alaska, for crying out loud. The rule would create an outright prohibiting on any new leases across a 10.6 million acre area. The regulations further mean that the entire section of the Arctic Ocean owned by the federal government is blocked from any fossil fuel production in the foreseeable future. However, an offshore lease sale has not been held in the region since 2007, and the administration had already ruled out future auctions through at least 2028. President Biden's war on American energy continues. Senator John Brusso, Republican, Wyoming, said in a statement, he is ignoring the law and making us more dependent on foreign oil, and oil from people, by the way, that don't like us. Not only is this bad energy policy, it's a bad foreign policy. Today's decision rewards our adversaries and hurts American families. Once again, President Biden is stifling domestic energy production in pursuit of his radical green energy. His cancellation of leases and complete disregard for the law pushes us even further away from energy independence. Senator Jim Rich of Iowa added. Senator Steve Daines, Republican Montana, said the moves were the latest example of Biden's war on American energy in order to pursue his green hallucinations. He said it was an effort to put both law and Native American communities that would benefit from development in the region. Under the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the DOI was ordered to establish and administer an oil and gas program. Then, years after the bill was passed, the Bureau of Land Management unveiled the final leasing program that ultimately held its lease sales for hundreds of thousands of access of fossil fuels in January of 2021. One day before President Biden's inauguration. The DOI awarded 9 leases, 7 of which were given to Alaska. Joined by a corporation, Covey Corporation, North Slope Broth, and Atlantic Slope Regional Corp., then sued the Biden administration at the DOI paused leasing in the area until June of 2021. The Biden administration at the time, when Americans and our allies need Alaska's resources more than ever, has decided to go their own way by rather locking Alaska down while refusing to consult with Alaska natives who actually live on the North Slope, said the senators from Alaska. It's not hard to predict what will happen as they will allow the world's worst actors to enrich themselves while punishing Alaska. Fewer jobs at home, more imports from California, and higher prices for everyone. These decisions are illegal, reckless, defying of common sense, and are the latest sign of an incoherent energy policy from Biden. Senator Dan Sullivan, Republican Alaska, said the actions were part of the Biden administration's unrelenting assault on our economy and our ability to lawfully access our lands. He also argued they would create a chilling effect, desensitizing energy investments in the state. I am deeply frustrated by the reversal of these leases, said Democrat Alaskan Representative Mary Patola. I will continue to advocate for them and for Alaska's ability to explore and develop our natural resources. From the critical minerals we need for our clean energy transition to the domestic oil and gas we need us to get there. According to the wilderness section of the ANWR, where its leases are located, contains approximately 7.6 billion barrels of unrecoverable oil and 7 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. The agency said a large share of economic development and jobs supported across Alaska and the rural North Slope communities are relating on oil and gas development. Taxes on oil and gas activities in Alaska also provide key funding for communities statewide for the government services, schools, housing, healthcare, and emergency services. So that's what we should be talking about on Fox, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, the New York Times, New York Post, the Washington Examiner, all of them. Everybody should be putting out on their front page and the lead story of what this administration is about to do and is currently doing and projecting to do to our entire country. And that is bring it to a screeching halt. There's no way in hell to come up with electric trucks to transport across our nation right now. And to even go green and come up with this stuff, you have to have oil and gas to get you there. And you still need oil and gas to make the products. But they don't get it. Just like they don't get gun control. Trying to take away your ability to protect your family, your property, your friends. All because of their ideology of double down on stupid. It's sad what this, and look, this is not the Joe Biden from 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago. No, this Joe Biden that's signing off on this shit, I guarantee you doesn't even know what he's signing off on. Okay? He was just asked why he has yet to go to Ohio with that train derailment and that town up there that was destroyed and their water system, that town in Ohio where the train derailed is just screwed. He's yet to go there. And his response when asked why is that he hasn't had time. He's been too busy doing other things that are more important for the country. As he's on vacation, and pictures of him in his swimsuit in a lawn chair on the fucking beach. He continues to go on vacations. And I get it, he needs them because he's mentally not all there. And probably the best thing for your mental health for anyone is to be on a beach. I know it is for me. I love to go to the beach, especially down in Florida. It helps me to recharge my batteries, for crying out loud. But to say that, oh, I haven't went because I've been too busy. No, you've had time to go up there. Good God, you've had time to go up there. And you've yet to do it. Hell, we're going to come up on a year here soon since that happened. And those people up there are still wondering where the fuck you're at and why you haven't showed up. Not that it will matter, because it really won't. You sure as hell don't need a president to show up within the first 2 weeks of where a disaster took place. Hurricane, tornadoes, earthquakes, whatever. No, keep the president away until we can free up some law enforcement to protect a president when they're busy taking care of the disaster that's currently happening. So this guy just doesn't understand. He's completely out of the loop on what's taking place. God forbid if Russia was to launch a nuclear weapon at any of the NATO countries like they keep threatening to do here recently with the war in Ukraine that's going on. It won't be Joe Biden making that decision. Just like it isn't Joe Biden making any of these decisions. He doesn't know what he's doing. The guy's mentally not there. He's not fit to be in office. That's just a fact. Now, according to his doctor, he is. His doctor says, oh, he's fine. Well, it's the same. The doctor said that about Mitch McConnell. There's nothing wrong with him. Wait a minute. We're watching Mitch McConnell come up to give speeches and stop for 30 seconds or longer and just stare at the people in mid-sentence because something went wrong in his brain. He's talking about whatever, and he just stops and stares. And drool coming out of his mouth. And his handlers are coming out going, are you okay? You know, what's going on? What's going on? He's like, one case, they just had to remove him and bring somebody else up to finish the speech. He's done that twice now, recently. You can see it. It's right here on YouTube. You can see him doing it for yourself. Something's wrong with him. Which is why we need term limits, for crying out loud. When I'm in my 80s, God forbid, don't put me in a fucking position of authority. Nothing against elderly. We're all going to get old. But let's face it, we should know what our limits are, right? We should know what we're capable of doing, right? There has to be a point, a cutoff age and a time limit of serving that needs to take place. Let's say, I don't know what the age should be, because I know my dad is 85 years old and he is all mentally there. All right. But I know other people his age that don't even know their name anymore. Okay. So that changes according to the person. I know some people that are elderly that are on a cane or a wheelchair, and others that are elderly that are the same age out running fucking marathons. It's like, wow, look at you go. But we've got to come up with common sense with everything we do. And it all starts with who we put in Congress and who we're going to elect as president. Let's just say 70 is the cutoff. I don't know, but let's just say that, because it's got to be lower than what it is, which is whatever. And then limits on how long you can serve. You can only be president for 2 terms. Well, why is it that we allow somebody in Congress to stay there till the day they die? They can go in at 21, and if they live to be 100, they can still be in Congress, fucking up shit for the rest of us. And that's not fair. That's part of what's wrong with the country right now. We've got a bunch of people that, because of the age process and what happens to us as we get older, there are things that we can't do anymore. God forbid, I'm only 61, and there's tons of shit that I can't do anymore because my body's not able to handle it. But I know friends my age that have stayed in great physical condition, that didn't have any back injuries like I did, or other type injuries that I incurred, that are out there running marathons. But we have to put things in perspective. And for Mitch McConnell's doctor to say he's clear to continue working in Congress, and for the president's doctor to say he's clear to continue working as the president, those 2 doctors, in my personal opinion, should be barred from practicing medicine, because that is incompetence. If you can look at what Joe Biden is doing out in public and what people like Mitch McConnell are doing out in public, and Nancy Pelosi and all these elderly people that are running the country, and you can see it all right here on YouTube, for crying out loud, liberals and Democrats that are going to go, oh, they're fine. No, you can look it up right here on YouTube and watch them saying shit that ain't got nothing to do with anything they're talking about, rambling on about other shit in the middle of their conversation, getting lost, walking the wrong direction, walking off stages, tripping and falling. It's a fucking disaster unfolding every day right here in America. We've got to come up with common sense. I'm all for green energy. I'm all for saving animals. I'm all for getting things accomplished by people that have the mental capacity in America. But the rest of it, we got to find a way to put that under wraps and control it a little bit better if we want to continue to strive to be the greatest country on planet Earth. But you see, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that the Democrats don't want us to be the leader of the free world anymore. They want us to be equal to everybody else. Everybody gets a participation trophy. Everybody gets an honorable mention. And when that shit starts happening, when less than 1% of the population can control what the rest of us do, there's serious problems in America. And that is currently what's happening all across this country. Anyhow, you had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me. Thank you very, very much for doing so. Sorry I wasn't able to be here Tuesday. actually not cutting the show short tonight. It's 8:56. Went on longer than I expected to. Like I say, it's been a very difficult week. And when you lose something that's very, very important to your life, it affects you in a lot of different ways. A lot of different people are affected in a lot of different ways. And that's what we're doing right now. And so it's been a grieving process this week. Things will move on. We get better. We'll be back, I think, Tuesday. Let me let you know right now up front what's happening, because there's going to come a point, not sure if it's going to be next week or the week after, where I'm going to have to take a leave of absence from doing the show for a period of time. I don't know if it's going to be just a couple of weeks or maybe a month, but we're moving. We're getting the fuck out of Southwest Louisiana. We have found a great home, and we're in the process right now. And closing on that home is supposed to take place at the end of next week. That may be pushed back to the following week. So whenever that is, we're going to be obviously out of this area to go take care of that. So I won't be able to do the show. And then we have to move. And I have to reset this office up at our new location, as well as my wife's office is downtown, and the city here has to be moved too, over to the new location. But we're moving several hundred miles away from this disastrous place that we're in. Look, thank you, Southwest Louisiana, for allowing us into your area for the long time that we have. But we, along with many, many others, have had enough of the things that are going on around here. I can't deal with another flood, for crying out loud. So we move on to bigger and better things in life. And so I'm going to need a period of time to make that transition. I'll let you know as soon as that happens. I put it in my community section. I'll put it out on Facebook. So not sure exactly when it's going to be. At the earliest, it would probably be Wednesday of next week, maybe Thursday. And moving past that, then we'll be out for a little bit until we get this move completed. So anyhow, if you haven't already done so, please like, subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends and family. Also in the description of this show and all my videos, all my shows, you can see the other place you can follow me on social media. Follow me there. I do the same for you in return. That's how we spread this knowledge to everyone that has the capability of listening and comprehending what comes out of my mouth. As always, please say a prayer for the men and women that are serving our United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, our angel families, our Blue and Gold Star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America, the best country on planet Earth still at the moment. But that may change in the very near future unless we do something about it at election time. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend. If something breaks between now and next Tuesday, I'll do a video about it or do a show about it. Other than that, hope you all have a wonderful Friday tomorrow, a wonderful night tonight. Be safe, whatever you're doing this weekend. And I'll see you all next week. Take care. God bless.